Beckett needs to revamp its pop report. Beckett needs to revamp its search feature within the pop report. Beckett needs to revamp its whole website. Beckett needs to revamp its turnaround times. Beckett needs to revamp its communication with customers. I mean, these are all huge things that Beckett needs to be worrying about, not worrying about its grading scale. I understand BGS 9.5s, PSA 10s have easily surpassed that. And as a result, people aren't submitting to Beckett as much because they don't want that 9.5. Sure, whatever. But you still hold the differentiator between all these other, or among all these other companies with that Beckett 10 pristine. And now if you go and devalue that, now you blow up your whole business.
In a world full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, grading, selling, buying, one card game remains supreme. One man has the insights you need to know. Watch and subscribe now. YugiohTube.
What's up, YouTube? YugiohTube here, and if you're looking at this photo, what a photo it is. This was announced by Beckett last week on March 30th, right before April Fool's. A lot of people thought this was an April Fool's joke. As you can see here, BGS Quad 9.5s for centering, corners, edges, and surface resulted in a BGS 10 gem mint. For those who don't know, Beckett has always been known. The differentiator between Beckett and all the other grading companies was the BGS 10. The BGS 10 was something so prestigious, was something so rare, was something so special. As you saw with Logan Paul with the base set Charizard card, his BGS 10, yeah, that was his jewelry. That was his bling on his whatever WWE or whatever wrestling event that he had. He was wearing it around his neck. Again, BGS 10 reigns supreme above the PSA 10. But Beckett has announced this past week that they were going to change the grading scale to where if you had X amount of 9.5s on your subgrades, you would get a BGS 10 gem mint. The BGS 10 pristine is still there, and the BGS black label still there as well. But you would have a BGS 10 gem mint if you hit certain criteria. So looking at the criteria here, if you had a 9.5, which is a mint plus, then it's a quad 9.5. So it kind of contradicted itself. So looking at this chart, if you had quad 9.5s, you have a 9.5 mint plus. If you have a 3 9.5s and 110, you have a Beckett 10 gem mint. And then again, if you have 2 and 2, it's also a Beckett 10 gem mint. If you have 3 subgrades of 10 and a 1 9.5, that's the gold label pristine that we all know and are accustomed to already. So nothing changes there. And of course, if you get 4 10s, you get the black label pristine card, which is something very special. Of course, the BGS 10 pristine and the black label pristine have always been the go-tos with Beckett. And again, here's what's crazy about this. Beckett's differentiator, again, as discussed earlier, is its BGS 10. Its BGS 10 pristine and black label pristine have always set Beckett above and beyond those PSA, CGCs, all those other competitors. That's the only thing it really had on the competitors, the fact that it was very difficult to get that BGS 10. But if everyone and their grandma now gets 10s, because, right, all these 9.5 subgrades round up to 10 and all this good stuff, then it devalues the BGS 10 pristine at that point. If this were to go into an enactment, it devalues the BGS 10 pristine. It also devalues the 9.5s because now they're even weaker 9.5s. Okay, so if you're Beckett 9.5 now with some 9 subs, some 9.5 subs, and it goes up to a 9.5, then it devalues everything. And now you've been in business for how many years? 20 years. And now everyone's going to have to send their stuff back to get reslabbed, regraded. What a mess. What really bothers me about this, or what bothered me about this, was the fact that you've been in business for 20 years. You can't change your criteria 20 years later. You know how much nonsense that's going to put people through? All these people are going to have to send stuff back. The perception of the company would have to change. The perception of grades would have to change. Values would change. You can't just kind of like, it's like Amazon saying, okay, we're not going to be selling stuff online. We're going physical and we're selling like clothing or something. Just clothing. Like, you can't just change your entire business model, aka your grading scale. That really is your business model in grading. Can't really do that. As a result, there was a huge backlash on this nonsense. And this is the only good part that we saw here this is from Beckett. Dear loyal Beckett customers, we are grateful for the feedback and insights you have shared over the past 48 hours. Your passion for the brand and hobby is remarkable, and we appreciate your support. After listening carefully to the feedback that you all shared, we have decided not to make any changes to our grading scale, quote, at this time. Okay, so that's concerning. We will keep you updated with an official announcement later next week regarding improvements to our grading scale. That's huge as well. We will keep you updated with an official announcement later next week. So it's this upcoming week now involving our improvements to our grading scale. We thank you for your continued trust and loyalty in Beckett. Please continue to share your thoughts and feedback directly with us. This is still concerning because Beckett's like, okay, we're not going to change it right now. We might change it in the future. We're also going to give you an update this week that nobody really wants. Nobody wants an update. I think the way Beckett is doing things is fine. People disagree with me on this, but I think the way that they're currently doing things is fine in terms of the grading scale, okay? Now, the way they're doing things in terms of the pop report, it's horrific. The population report is only available, I believe, still to users. You have to sign up for the website to get to the pop report, whereas PSA, anyone could just log into a library computer, go to PSA's pop report, boom, you've got it. You don't have to create an account. You don't have to make things fancy. You could access the pop report right away without an account. In addition to that, the PSA pop reports are exceptionally good. Beckett's pop reports are horrific. The search feature, the filtering, it's terrible. I mean, if you go and search something, for example, Joe Burrow Auto or, I don't know, a Blue Eyes LOB, you have to go through a million different hoops just to kind of get to that pop report. Sometimes they're even separated into two different sets when they should be combined into one set. So it's a whole mess. Beckett needs to revamp its pop report. Beckett needs to revamp its search feature within the pop report. Beckett needs to revamp its whole website. Beckett needs to revamp its turnaround times. Beckett needs to revamp its communication with customers. I mean, these are all huge things that Beckett needs to be worrying about, not worrying about its grading scale. I understand BGS 9.5s, PSA 10s have easily surpassed that. And as a result, people aren't submitting to Beckett as much because they don't want that 9.5. Sure, whatever. But you still hold the differentiator between all these other, or among all these other companies with that Beckett 10 pristine. And now if you go and devalue that, now you blow up your whole business. Instead, you should be focusing these efforts on customer support, customer service, customer resources. You should not be focusing all these efforts on changing your grading scale that you actually have a demand for those Beckett 10s. You have a huge demand. People pay huge premiums for Beckett 10s. And what you don't want to do is piss a lot of people off by changing that scale, okay? You don't want to do that. And if you look at this, folks, I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm like, this is way, way too confusing. I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is so freaking confusing. This is insanely confusing. And as a consumer or as someone going into the grading world, you look at this and you're like, okay, I don't understand any of this. Some people have said, let's have Beckett get rid of the subgrades completely. I disagree with that. I think that's what kind of makes Beckett, again, unique compared to the other companies is with Beckett, the subgrades, you could at least see what they're seeing, transparency, right? Which is what you don't get with PSA. Right? PSA, you give it an 8, 9, 10. You don't know why, but they give it an 8, 9, 10, for example, 7, 8, 9, 10. With Beckett, you know why they're giving it that grade. And I think that's a big differentiator as well. So I think Beckett has some things they're doing well. The subgrades, I think they're unique to Beckett. I think they should keep the subgrades. This is just my personal opinion. It separates themselves. They should keep the rarity of that BGS 10 and the BGS Black label, as some say pop control. Sure, why not? But there's an established demand for it, and it's working. Why would you stray from that? And then what they really need to do is, again, work on the customer service, work on the customer resources, work on everything else that they need to work on, not changing the grading scale. And I understand the 9.5 is not what it used to be. Ironically, everyone says BGS is terrible, it's awful, it's awful. That was not always the case, especially in sports cards. Sports cards in the 2006, 2007, all the way up to about 2013, 2014, it wasn't PSA that was winning the battle, it was Beckett. You go to a card show, and the Beckett line was massive. The PSA line, you could walk right up. And so, yes, things have changed, and people have adapted over the last 5 to 10 years, right? But again, from, let's say, 06 to about 2015, 2016, so for that decade there, Beckett was ruling the grading industry. It was an insane time where everyone wanted to go to Beckett. 9.5s, Beckett BGS 9.5s were selling higher prices than PSA 10s. That's right. I know people who had PSA 10 cards that went to Beckett to try to get the 9.5. Imagine that. People had PSA 10 cards, and they said, I don't want the PSA 10, I want to get that 9.5 at Beckett. And that's how things have changed. So, again, Beckett for a long time was at the top of the world in the grading card industry. Nobody realizes that in the Yu-Gi-Oh card market, but yeah, Beckett had a huge market share, bigger than anybody else, and it's really fallen. PSA made those adaptations. They fixed the pop reports. They did a lot of other things. Beckett did not. I mean, so what do you guys think? Until next time, Yu-Gi-Oh Tube, what's going to happen with Beckett? What's going to happen? Are they going to change their grading, criteria? I don't know. What do you think? Until next time, Yu-Gi-Oh Tube, signing out.